Commentary on Revelation 20, verse 1 to 6. Revelation 21 to 6 presents a symbolic vision that continues the unfolding of victory, judgment, and reign already established in the preceding chapter. The imagery is not chronological in a modern linear sense, but rather a recapitulation, retelling the same redemptive triumph from another angle, emphasizing the restraint of opposition and the reign of life. Verses 1 to 3. The binding of the adversary. The vision opens with an angel descending, holding the key to the abyss and a great chain. The dragon, identified as the serpent, the devil, and Satan, is bound for 1,000 years and cast into the abyss, shut and sealed. This binding is not the removal of all activity in an absolute sense, but a decisive limitation. The stated purpose clarifies the nature of the binding, so that he should deceive the nations no more until the 1,000 years were finished. The emphasis is on restraint of deception. This corresponds to the triumph already declared through the finished work, where the power of accusation, condemnation, and covenantal deception has been rendered ineffective. The adversary's role as deceiver of the nations, particularly in keeping them in darkness apart from covenant inclusion, is brought to an end. The sealing of the abyss signifies a completed and secured restriction, not a temporary struggle awaiting future resolution. The 1,000 years functions symbolically as a complete, divinely appointed period, representing fullness rather than a literal numeric duration. Verse 4. Thrones and judgment. John then sees thrones, and those seated upon them are given judgment. This imagery reflects participation in authority and reign. These are not distant figures of a future era, but those who share in the present reality of life. The mention of those beheaded for the testimony and those who did not worship the beast or receive its mark identifies a people who remained faithful amid pressure and persecution. Their faithfulness is not portrayed as awaiting vindication in a distant age, but as presently vindicated in their participation in reign. They lived and reigned. Indicates a transition into a state of life beyond the reach of death's former authority. This is not merely physical resurrection language, but covenantal life, participation in a realm where death no longer governs identity or standing. Verse 5, the first resurrection. The rest of the dead did not live again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. The contrast here is between two states, life and death, not merely physical existence, but relational standing. The first resurrection is the transition from death into life, the awakening into covenantal life, union, and participation in the reign already established. This resurrection is not postponed, but realized. It marks the movement from the realm of separation, condemnation, and death into the realm of life, righteousness, and shared authority. The rest of the dead represents those who remain outside of this life during the described period, still identified within the realm of death, lacking participation in this resurrection life. Verse 6, blessed and holy. Blessed and holy is he who has part in the first resurrection. Over such the second death has no power. The blessing is tied to participation in this resurrection life. Holiness here is not a progressive attainment, but a declared and established identity, set apart within the realm of life. The second death has no authority over those in this state. Death, in its ultimate sense as separation and judgment, has been rendered powerless. This is a declaration of security, not uncertainty. They shall be priests and shall reign, further reinforces identity and function. Priesthood speaks of nearness, access, and mediation fulfilled. Reign speaks of shared authority, not deferred to a distant future, but realized within this present framework of life. Summary. Revelation 20, verse 1 to 6 portrays the decisive restriction of deception, the completion of redemptive victory, the present reality of reign and life, the transition from death into resurrection life, the security of those who share in this life. The passage is not anticipating a future era where victory will finally be achieved, but unveiling the reality of a victory already accomplished, with its effects presently unfolding in the realm of life, reign, and freedom from condemnation.